Hello there. What is going on, everybody? I am bringing to you today another KeyForge video, and I'm doing a preliminary top 10 for Sanctum. This is based on the games that I've played so far, and just kind of my opinion. I'm breaking down what I think is the top 10 Sanctum cards to look for in decks. Now, this is going to be just a very early list. The game's only been out for just over a week. It's also going to be more of a broader top 10 because there's obviously going to be cards that are better than others depending on what's in a deck. And so I'm kind of looking for things that are going to be more universally good, universally usable, things that are going to be more broader based. So this doesn't necessarily mean things that this is the end-all be-all top 10 list. This is just an early top 10 list, and this is going to change as the game progresses and as we get more comfortable with the way things work, the way things are stopped, certain things that seem strong right now might not be that strong later on. So I'm going to talk about all of those things eventually over time as this game grows. But right now, this is the top 10. Before I dive into it, though, I do want to remind everybody about the Superstar Destroyer giveaway. If you'd like to enter to win a Superstar Destroyer in the form of a cool stuff gift card that you could use for either a Superstar Destroyer or whatever else you want, all you have to do is to become a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to start with number 10 is Lord Golgotha. There are a lot of really good creatures in Sanctum, and I love the fact that Sanctum has these knights, and the knights are actually really, really cool. Usually when you get Sanctum, you're going to get a couple of knights. Sometimes, maybe only one or two. Sometimes you're going to get like 6 or more. But with all of these creatures, a lot of them are, have armor, and that's great. Lord Golgotha has 2 armor, so I really like Lord Golgotha. Lord Golgotha's power 5, which is pretty strong. So it's a creature that's hard to kill already because of the armor and the power level. But what I really like about Lord Golgotha is the before fight ability. He's going to deal 3 damage to each neighbor of the creature that he fights. He has a pretty good chance of being able to kill whoever he fights because he's dealing 5 damage, and even if he's fighting another 5 power creature, he's not going to take that much damage in return because of the armor. He's got a lot of natural synergy with himself, but here's the thing that makes Lord Golgotha really awesome is that 3 damage to neighbors. It's so nice because it's a great way to get around a lot of things that are out there, those creatures that are elusive. There's creatures that maybe are protected like by taunt, or maybe you've got like a shadow self that's out there. Oh, well, I'm going to deal 5 to you, but I'm also going to deal 3 and 3. So maybe it's just it has a lot of really, really nice synergy, and it's a great kind of a way to clear the board without having to use a board clearing ability. And since it's only against your opponents, it's just a really, really solid, great creature, and also really nice artwork, by the way. And that's one thing I think that that isn't really factoring into my top 10. I'm not really ranking these by artwork, but I think it's something worth pointing out is some of this artwork is really, really cool. I love the art in this game. So, and this is one of the better pieces. I love that. I love the light that's just luminescing. Is that a word? Luminescing? I don't... Whatever. I mean, it's great. It's great artwork. Number 9, Inspiration. Inspiration is very, very simple, but I love it. Ready and use a friendly creature. There's so many ways that you can use this card, and it's almost always going to be good because every deck has creatures, and this is good in a deck with a lot of creatures. This is really good in a deck with only a few creatures because it's, first off, let's say you want to use it for Sanctum. All right, I'm going to declare Sanctum. Oh, I'll use Lord Golgotha. I'm going to attack. Boom. All right, I hit. I clear off some. I kill your little flankers. Okay, no problem. Well, I play Inspiration. Oh, ready and use. I can attack again. Boom. Trigger those same abilities. So it allows for natural combos. This is going to allow you to build combos with anything else that's already in your deck. So it's a really good card here. But it's also, you can do this out of house. You don't have to, go straight Sanctum here. You can ready and use a different creature. So it's good for all of those reasons too. It seems to work a little better with Sanctum creatures because you can use them, ready them again, and then use them again. So if you've got like a reap ability on a Sanctum creature, you might want to reap, do this, ready that, reap again, do this. Good. So that's cool stuff. I like that, but the fact that you can use it out of house and in house, and it's very good either way, is really, really cool for me. I like that. I like stuff that lets you break out of house, and I like stuff that's giving you more access to your creatures. It does, however, have the requirement that you already have a creature out. Well, actually, it really doesn't. You just have to have a creature in your hand because you can play it and then ready and use it right away. But it's better if you've already got a creature out, so you can use that creature, ready and use it again. But there's like 3 different ways, I think, of using this card. Having the creature in your hand to like bring them into play, and then ready them, use them right away. Ready, or double use a Sanctum creature that's already out there, or use a creature from out of house. And there's even more potential possibilities, like maybe Logos gives you the ability to play one creature out, play one non-Logos card. Maybe you play this, and it kind of lets you kind of spider web out a little bit because of how flexible it is. So I like Inspiration a lot. Number 8 is Glorious Few. This is an action. When you play this, for each creature your opponent controls in excess of you, gain an amber. This is so potentially really, really nice. I have seen this been used in very strong ways. I've seen this used to gain 18 amber one time against a really, really, really creature-heavy deck where the opponent deliberately held off to gain a ton of amber. And it was, maybe it wasn't 18. They had 18 after they played it. They had a few. So I think it was something like 10 or 12 or 13 or so. It was some obnoxious amount of amber that you can potentially gain with this card. And of course, this one works really well with a lot of other combo abilities like Golgotha and Inspiration. Oh, I'm going to, first I'm going to play Glorious Few, gain 10 amber. Now I'm going to start killing your creatures, and oh, by the way, I'm, going to forge a key next turn and maybe another key the turn after that. Very, very cool card. Does have the requirement that they have to have a lot of creatures out, but you have some control over that requirement because you can deliberately not destroy their creatures. You can deliberately hold off on playing your own when you want to, kind of line this up to try to maximize the amount of amber you're going to get from this card. But just the amount of amber you can get, it's not that hard to get at least a couple. So I think that's that. If you can get at least 2, it's going to be good. If you can get more than that, it's even better. So I like that. Charge is number 7. 7. So Charge is a really cool card. It's a little harder to use, right? Because this one works primarily with Sanctum. If you've got Sanctum creatures, and usually Sanctum decks that I play tends to have at least a respectable number of creatures. I have very, very few Sanctum decks that have like only 3 creatures. So Charge basically, first off, it gives you an amber. So that's kind of what pushed it up a little higher, because I would have put this one a little bit lower because it's a little more situational. But if nothing else, you can at least get an amber with it. But basically this is for the remainder of the turn, every creature you play gains the ability to deal 2 damage to an enemy creature when you play it. This is just, it factors in. It's kind of a board clearing card that only really, hurts your opponent. So the ideal way to play this is, and I've had this hand show up where I have Charge and 5 Sanctum creatures. So I'm like, all right, Charge, boom, then play the other creatures, boom, 2 damage, boom, 2 damage, kill him, boom, kill him. Just that's such a great targeted board clearing card. I really like it. Plus, it's giving you an amber on top of all of that. It's very, very cool. I can see this one potentially changing as the game, gets farther. If people start seeing, more and more Sanctum decks with very few creatures in there, I can see that being something that changes it a little bit. But this one, I put it up a little higher based on my experience because I've seen a lot of Sanctum decks that can make really, really good use of this card. So I'm a fan of this card, but I wonder if some of you might disagree. And of course, if you disagree with any of these, this is just my opinion, but let me know down in the comments below. Number 6, Bulwark. Bulwark is just so great. Again, it's another one of those knights. The knights are automatically good. He's got 2 armor. A lot of the creatures in Sanctum have only 1. So first off, having 2 armor is automatically a really good thing. But he gives his neighbors +2. So not only does he have the 2 armor, and he's kind of hard to kill, but he's giving +2 armor to his neighbors. So he makes a really great character to put on a taunt next to a taunt creature, for example. Now that taunt creature, especially if it's another knight, you know, that maybe had 1 armor, now has 3 armor. Maybe you put him next to another creature that has, you know, a taunt and you know, maybe has 2 armor. You're bringing somebody else up to 4 armor. It's just, he's just so nice. Like, armor's just a really, really good card, and it makes your knights very resistant to board clearing abilities. So I'm a big fan of Bulwark. He is only power 4, but I think he's okay with that, especially if you can get more than 1 Bulwark. You can put them together. Now they're 4 armor each and buffing the other sides. It's really, really cool. Next up, number 5, Blinding Light. Such a useful card. Such a useful card. It gives you an amber too, so that's automatically a good thing. But on top of that, while this isn't a board clearing card, it kind of is in the category of that, because you can just stun all the. I love stun. Stun is such a strong card because it's forcing them to have to waste an entire action, an entire turn of just choosing a house, and, you know, clearing all the stun. And especially if you do have a board clearing card, you deliberately wait for them to spend a whole turn unstunning all of their creatures. Then you play the board clearing card, you know, like that, you know, Gateway to Dis or you know, or anything like that, or charge, and then, you know, oh, now you unstunned all these guys, now I'm going to kill them all. It's just so very strong. The only weakness that this one has is if you happen to have some houses overlap with your opponent, and then you know, you run the risk of potentially stunning your own stuff. But if that's the case, maybe you just attack first or reap first, you know, or maybe, you know, you lose that creature and then you go ahead and choose it. But I think the fact that you get the choice of the house makes this ultimately flexible. And maybe you deliberately don't play your Sanctum creatures first. Like if you're facing Sanctum, play Blinding Light first, then bring out your own Sanctum creatures, and now your opponent is, you know, holding all the stun tokens. I really like Blinding Light. It's very effective, and also gives you an amber, so that's cool. Speaking of amber, let's jump into number 4. We're getting into the good ones now. Virtuous Works. I don't think I can really say a whole lot about this card other than it's awesome. 3 amber. Just, I mean, it's so simple. Requires nothing. Just 3 amber. Just sit on it until you're ready, you know? Like, I absolutely love this card. If you had 2 of these, now this is one of those cards I don't see duplicates of very often. I don't know if I've seen 2 of these in any deck. I want to say that I have. I've opened almost 40 decks at the time that I've created this video. I want to say that I have, but I'm not 100% certain. It seems like this is like one of those cards, like if you had 2 of these in your opening hand, could you imagine just being like, oh, okay, boom, check, turn 1, or if you're player 2. Like, that's insane. It's also risky because somebody can turn around and bait and switch you too, but it's just having this and knowing that you're like, all right, whenever I get to the point that I want to, you know, I'm just going to hide out and make you think I have nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, I gain all that amber. I love Virtuous Works, and the fact that it has no dependencies at all. I can just play it anytime I want. Makes it even better. Great card to have. Speaking of amber, also we've got number 3, Jihu the Bureaucrat. Jihu is really good, and while he doesn't necessarily give you as much as Virtuous Works, he potentially gives you way more depending on his, you know, how you run with him. And what I like about this guy specifically is I think he makes for a really strong first turn play. In games where I've used Jihu. In games where I've used Jihu and had him out first turn, it was annihilation. Really, if your opponent can't deal with him, because he puts you in a position, or puts your opponent in a position where like you have to deal with this guy. But he's power 3, so he's not the easiest person to deal with. And if they don't get him first turn, maybe you play a Bulwark or something right next to him on the next turn, so now he's even harder to deal with, or a taunt creature, and the knights have a lot of taunt, right? So, and I might just keep going with Sanctum, because next turn, right, the thing is, he's not giving you anything right now. But if they don't deal with him immediately, and it was one thing that makes him great as a first turn play, because you might force your opponent to like, oh, well, I didn't mulligan because I knew I wanted to play all these, you know, all this other stuff, but now I have to deal with Jihu. Well, that very next turn, first off, I'm going to reap with him, and then I'm going to declare Sanctum. So I'm going to gain, basically I'm going to gain 3 on the next turn, plus every turn thereafter. So if I'm able to protect him by doing, and Sanctum naturally has a lot of stuff that can protect him with the other knights, or some of the upgrades that give him armor, or upgrades that give somebody next to him taunt. All of that stuff is built to protect Jihu and any other weak creatures you have. You're going to keep gaining. Like I had a game where I just called Sanctum 4 turns in a row and ran away with it. So as you're really forcing your opponent to deal with him, and if they don't, you can just very comfortably kind of slow play it and just be like, okay, I'll just keep calling Sanctum, kind of hold some of my other cards, Sanctum and reap, Sanctum, oh, here's another knight, and reap, and then Sanctum, reap, and you just, sit on to everything else, wait for them to deal with that, and then play your other stuff. It's a really strong first turn play, and of course he's good mid game too, but I really like Jihu first turn. He's insane. I love the benefit you get. Let's jump to number 2. Number 2 is Numquid the Fair. Absolutely love Numquid, although I'm not really sure what her parents were thinking. Oh, she's beautiful. What shall we name her? Let us call her Numquid. Really, honey? Should we name our daughter Numquid? I don't know. Maybe that's a common name. Maybe it means something in their culture. But Numquid is awesome. First off, it's a creature. Second, so that, that's good. Sanctum likes creatures. There's a lot of things that give you bonuses for creatures with Sanctum. But second off, it's got a comes into play ability. And it's a great comes into play ability, because this is, first off, it's a great equalizer. And it has versatility. You look at this card and you think, oh, this works much better if my opponent has more creatures than I do, so I kind of have to wait until they have a lot of stuff. Not necessarily. Because even if you have more creatures, you can still play Numquid and destroy an enemy creature. Just straight up destroy an enemy creature. You're not dealing damage, so even if they have armor, or they're protected by a shadow self, or taunt, or something like that, you can still just straight up destroy a creature. And then the fact that you get to repeat this if they still control more creatures than you. So if you're ahead or even, you'll be +1, right? Because Numquid's going to kill a creature. If you're behind, you may not be +1, but you can totally normalize. You can equalize it, because you're going to just keep repeating this effect. Repeat things like this are not bound by the rule of 6. So if my opponent has 15 creatures, I can play Numquid and I just destroy everything except 1 if I have no other creatures. And the thing is, I'm playing the effect, so I choose what's destroyed. So I can pick their weakest or the most least effective creature and keep it out. And that's really the power of Numquid. I love this creature. And number 1, this one is a little bit of a cheat. It's I picked Horseman of Pestilence for number 1 because it's Horseman. So it's the reason is I know a lot of people are saying Horsemen are overrated. It's because of the fact that if you have 1 in your deck, you're going to have 4. So you at a minimum have some good synergy. You're getting 4 for the price of 1, basically. So if you're looking through, like when I'm opening a deck and I look Sanctum, that's one of the things I look for first. Is like, do I happen to have Horseman in here? Doesn't mean the deck is going to be worth $2,000 like we've seen on eBay. But it does mean that deck is at a minimum going to have some synergy. If you have Horseman in a deck, Horseman can turn a bad deck into at least a decent deck. And they can turn a decent deck into a slightly better deck, depending on the synergy. And hopefully they have synergy with creatures. And again, because Sanctum have had so many cards that work really well with a lot of creatures, I think it's just really nice that by getting 1 Horseman, you know that you're going to have 4 creatures at minimum. And usually it's more than that. Usually it'll, like in cases that I have 2 Horseman decks now, you have more than just the 4. Usually it's like I would have had at least 2 knights and a Horseman, so that brings me up to at least 6, right? And maybe even more than that. So just the way the algorithm works and the way that it gives you 4 for the price of 1, that's just really, really good. The Horsemen are pretty decent, to be honest with you. I enjoy the Horseman decks. Usually tend to do pretty well. Again, this is something that's going to change. I think a lot of people have adjusted their play and their mind states to value certain cards that counter Horseman a little bit more, especially Purge cards, because they have the way to recycle themselves. So that much is interesting. It'll also be interesting to see once people get more Horseman decks and you end up having Horsemen face other Horsemen. Horseman versus Horseman duels could end up playing out very, very differently. And that's a case where it's really going to depend on the rest of the deck to make or break the fight. But as it stands right now, this was to me a no-brainer just because of the fact that you're getting guaranteed synergy in a deck by having Horsemen. So you, at a minimum, this automatically elevates the deck a little bit. And I think that counts for a lot. So that has been my top 10 for Sanctum. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out Crabbok.com. You can hop in my Discord, say hi. There's sales going on for Black Friday on my store. The link is down there as well. So if you want to get some t-shirts and some other things, I've got a lot of that as well. And that is about it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to enter that giveaway for the Superstar Destroyer, because that will be coming on around the 21st of December. So stay tuned for that. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Have a great day.